Thanks a lot, Corina, for the introduction. And thanks a lot for giving the opportunity to share some updates and news from ECLAM. For those who have not met me yet, I'm Stefan Zeiter. I'm the president since January. I feel very honored about that. I'm taking over from Patricia. And yeah, let's have a look at a short update. First of all, I really want to thank Ruth for organizing this e-coffee and then Corina for the whole series. I think it's really great to have this, to have the opportunity to get information, to exchange information, and to create a network like that. And of course, she's not with a picture on that slide, but of course, without Janet, nothing is working in ECLAM. And also here, she gives a great support. So thanks a lot for that. The first point I would like to inform you about or look at is the strategic plan. You may know that in 2020, we have started or we worked on a strategic plan for the next 5 years. And this is the outcome. Some of you may have seen that, but I just want to share it again because I think it also ties in nicely in this presentation. The strategic plan we have developed is based on 4 pillars. And the first pillar we called the college. And the pillar or the goal college actually has the overall goal, so to say, to make participation in the college easier by simplifying ECLAM processes. So the idea is to make it easier for everyone to work with and for ECLAM. And we have always strategies in these goals. So I will go quickly mention the strategies. I will not mention the task then to get to this or to achieve these strategies. So the first strategy is to strengthen the administrative role in the day-to-day management. So that involves basically Janet's role to see how we can make it most efficient. The second one is to simplify constitution and bylaws, and so that we can increase agility and flexibility. So the idea here is that we are not an old dinosaur and very slow to move and react to changes, so that we're more really reactive if something new comes. And as we experience quite intensively these days, the world can change pretty fast and we have to be ready to act quickly. The second pillar is the residents. Of course, they are very important. And the goal here is actually to create a network for the residents for training and research opportunities. Therefore, one strategy is to establish so-called satellite skills training sites with the idea that residents can go there to get what they cannot basically learn in their own facility. We want to make a network to help residents with the research. This can be either by just supervising or also maybe to give project ideas and so on, because I think that's one thing we have identified as being difficult for residents. The third one is to really integrate the offerings that are out there into the ECLAM training framework, and if needed, to develop new educational offering. I think that's quite important that we also now take into account all the possibilities of online learning and teaching, and that we get fit for the future, so to say. Third pillar then obviously is the supervisors. I think it's the topic of today's presentation. There the goal is to increase the number and actually to support them as good as we can. The first strategy is to support, really make sure that supervisors know what they should do and that they get all the support they need to do it. And also to make it more attractive to become a supervisor, because we can only sustain a college or even grow the college if we have supervisors that take new residents. I think that's a very important goal. So I'm very happy that Ruth has organized this e-coffee on this topic. The fourth one is the lab animal vet community, so veterinary community. And there it's actually, we want to promote the value of the ECLAM diploma. So we want to make sure that people recognize that it's good to have this diploma. And therefore the strategy is to increase the visibility but then also to look at those countries that already have a national specialty titles, to make it attractive to become a step further, to become an ECLAM diplomat, and to look at the countries where we are underrepresented and to make sure that they have the opportunity to join ECLAM. So I think with these four pillars, we want to make ECLAM fit for the future and make sure that everyone gets the support he needs to fulfill his role within ECLAM. With that, I want to mention some upcoming activities in the next month so that you know what's coming. The first one is the mock exam. So we will host or organize again a mock exam so that you can have a look how the exam will be. The exact date is not fixed yet, but it will be in the springtime. I thought I want to share the only dates that are for sure, so I don't share any dates right now, but we will have newsletters where we can share that, and also check out our calendar on the ECLAM website where you can find all this information. The same is true for the ESLAF ECLAM Summer School. So we will have one. As you can imagine, due to the pandemics, it's not so easy. That's why most likely it will be virtual. And on the module 1 on biology, but more information will be shared soon so that you can register for the ESLAF ECLAM Summer School 21. Then FILASA initiated a working group on a designated veterinarian. Together with ESLAF, we will be working on that working group. The idea is basically to define this role of a designated veterinarian better. And I think there's quite some differences between countries, and we just want to basically map out how is it dealt with in the different countries, what are similarities and differences, and then basically sum up it with recommendation, what should a designated veterinarian do. Last but not least, of course, the annual meeting. We also have discussions about the annual meeting and start to organize it. Again, due to the pandemics, most likely it will be online, similar to last year, which I think was a great success. It was well attended, and I think very easy and to follow and interesting topics. So we will most likely go for something similar. We will share information soon. One major point we are working now at the moment, especially the exam committee under Matthew is working very hard, is the exam 21 to organize it, because we have an extraordinary number of candidates. It's 14 candidates from 7 countries. I think these are great news, and we want to make sure that they get the best, that we can organize in a way that everyone has a very good possibility to join. We decided again, due to the number of candidates and also pandemics, to do this online. So written and the oral exam will be online. And in order to be prepared for travel restrictions, or if travel restrictions still will exist in the fall, we will actually organize regional examination hubs. So in each country, in each of the 7 countries, there will be an examination hub where the candidates can go to, and under supervision will have the opportunity to take the exam. And of course, this is quite some logistics behind. Janet is leading this. We already have identified diplomats and other colleagues to help us in 4 countries, but we still need help for Finland, Italy, and Romania. So if you have, if you can help us organizing, please reach out to Janet to do so. And with that, I'm actually at the end of my presentation, and I want to lead over to Ruth and just want to emphasize again what I said when I introduced the 3rd pillar, the supervisors. In my opinion, the supervisors are really the key to the success for the future. We will only succeed if we have people that supervise, that train new residents. So they're very, very important. And we very want to make sure that they get all the support they need for that task. And Ruth, with that, over to you.
Thanks, Stefan. Okay, first of all, thank you, everyone. Thanks to the panelists for putting themselves through this interview. I would like to start with my first question with Patri. You have been a founding member, thank you. You've been a founding member of ECLAM, and I think you were saying that it was founded in Mallorca. So you're based in Spain, and you have a very impressive list of 14 standard residents and 8 alternate residents. You've got a breadth of experience there supervising ECLAM residents. So my question to you is, can you sort of like talk us through your responsibilities as a supervisor? For example, how often do you meet and what kind of things do you discuss during your meetings?
Well, I must say, I don't know, you hear me well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I apologize because my voice. Well, the thing is that when we started with ECLAM, what we did, I am not really in an animal facility. So I am at a university in the veterinary school. So what I decided was, in order to be able to train residents, was to establish a kind of service so that we could do projects in the different species that we can have in our facilities, and the residents to be working in those projects. And this is how we started. Our first resident was Yolanda, that I think she's attending also the e-coffee. So she had the first experience. We didn't have any experience at all. And how often we meet? Well, it depends, but it's basically we work as a team, so very, very often. With the alternative resident is different, but with the ones that we are working together in CL is well, very close relationship.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and you just mentioned there that things might be slightly different between the alternative route residents and the standard route residents. What can you kind of like elaborate a little bit on the difference there?
Yes. Well, for the alternative ones, it usually, you know that we have also our didactic program. The didactic program is can be a master's degree, and also nowadays a certificate that is recognized by VetCE. So this didactic program is modular. We organize 2 courses per year. So somebody joining the masters, that I always explain what is ECLAM and I try to promote it and so on. So the people that is interested and they approach me, for instance, like Gianfranco also, that I know he's here too, although I am not his supervisor, no, in this case. But then we see at least each other twice a year, and we discuss and we see how things are going on. Joanna is also here, that she's a candidate for this year.
Great, thank you, Patri. Now, Christina, you also have been an ECLAM member for quite a while, and you have had 2 standard residents. So from your point of view as a supervisor, what would you say is your time commitment that you give to the role as a supervisor?
Well, we have a special arrangement at the Lund University, so I'm only working 10%, and I dedicate these 10% to our candidates. I split that between teaching them myself, especially now during this last year when it was difficult traveling to other facilities. Pushing them, motivate them, and also kind of be a discussion partner in their training for the ECLAM.
Okay, so so you see your role more of a discussion partner, and when you meet your residents, how do you ensure, or how do you get a feeling for whether they're on track or not? How do you know that they're moving in the right direction, or where maybe areas for development are?
Well, we have a kind of time plan, and when I'm coming in these 2 days a month, we check if they're have done the tasks that I have given them. If something had happened that they had to prioritize something else. I do some small tests with them sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
We have a journal club that we go through the latest numbers of some magazines.
Mm-hmm.
And so on. Yeah.
Okay. Now, opening this question up to the other panelists, does any of you have a different approach, or is it pretty much in line with Patrice and Christina's answers regarding time commitment and regarding how you ensure people are still on track?
I guess I could step in and say that it's difficult to assess practical skills, but I think the only way to really do that is to get together between one-on-one and just make sure that people do have the practical skills that we expect them to have. And this is obviously something that's going to be more and more important as we go along, because it's very difficult to assess practical skills in any kind of examination. And I think one of our responsibilities as supervisors is to make sure that people are capable of doing handling animals, administering substances, taking samples, doing necropsies, doing surgery, that sort of thing. And that's for me the most time consuming and difficult part, because at the moment I'm stuck in the US. I can't get back to my residence. And that's going to be a real challenge this year for all of us, I think.
I think it also depends a lot on the level of experience and expertise of the residents. So in my situation, I have just started to be a supervisor end of last year. So it's still very new to me, and my residents have almost all the same age as I do, if not more experience than I do. So they could have almost qualified as internationally recognized experts if it weren't for the publications. Alessia and Helen, they also joined us today. So I'm very happy and honored to be their supervisor. So we discussed a bit, okay, let's start with self-gauging your level. Would you like to do a mock exam first and see what would be your weak points or things that we really have to insist upon? And we did spend a lot of time on the administrative part. So actually preparing the application, they are both alternate residents, and I can tell you it's worthwhile to spend this time discussing and fine-tuning all the details before the applications are sent. So from my side, I think it was I was happy that I could support that.
And just quite specifically, time commitment, how many hours would you say you spend in your role as a supervisor? Can you put a time on it, or is it you do it, a little bit here and there?
I'd jump in on that if I can. It varied. When you and I were doing it, we were co-locators, so that probably took more time. With a distant resident, it's really only a few hours a month, but it does go up and down depending on if you are getting all the paperwork in order. That does take some time. So I think the average figure is probably a few hours a month, but it's sort of up to you as to how much you want to provide and how much you think the individual is able to do for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess it's peaks and troughs, as sometimes there's a lot, and then maybe there's phases where it's all easy sailing. Okay, so Patricia, you are based in Sweden, and you have supervised a standard resident, and you've also co-supervised eight residents. So in your experience, what would you say are sort of like the key aspects that make the relationship work between a resident and their supervisor? And maybe the flip side, what do you think are indicators that it's not working? And in your experience, what makes a good supervisor-resident relationship?
Well, the one standard resident that I supervised, she worked at the same place as I am at the vet school. And she did her PhD at the same time as she trained to be an ECLAM diplomat. So she did a lot of work with large animals, with pigs actually. And then to get the rodent experience, she had to go to another university because at the vet school, we don't have much rodents. So with her, I mean, I met her every day. We worked together on her research projects, and whenever there was any case in our tiny rodent facility, I would take her with me to make sure that she could see everything that happened. And then we had these formal meetings twice a year. And what I did with her and also the residents that I co-supervised was to tell them to use the application package as a template. Mm-hmm. To fill out, you know, to make sure that they did all these different areas of training. And then I also told them to keep a diary, because if you don't keep a diary, you don't know what you have done in the end. And then I must say, it was very much up to them to be driving the training. I mean, I was there, and I offered to have journal clubs during the last year with my resident, which we did not end up not having. And the ones that I co-supervised, like one of Christina's residents, I did a research project together with one of her residents. So that was my part too, because I got a small grant, and instead of doing the research at my facility, I joined up with Christina's resident. And Sweden is exceptional in that way that we don't have a centralized training program, but it is a number of universities and AstraZeneca who are the nodes in our training program. And since a couple of years, we've also joined forces with Finland and Denmark, so it's a Scandinavian training program now. So I think, I mean, trust. You have to be. I mean, we're colleagues. We're friends. You know. I hope that I'm the kind of supervisor that you can come to and ask whatever you want to ask, and just be a positive person in their life, so to say. I think that's the important thing. Mm-hmm. Okay. Encouragement and yeah, be a positive.
But quite, you were saying sort of like your colleagues and your friends, so it's quite an equal kind of relationship in that way.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes. I mean, they are colleagues, and sometimes they have more knowledge in certain areas depending on what they have done. So it's a very mutual relationship in that way.
So, on that point, have any of the other supervisors got a different view on sort of like the resident supervisor relationship, the dynamic? Is it more of a coaching type of relationship, more of a mentoring style of relationship? Maybe the question can also be: do you sometimes treat different residents differently according to their style? So what is people's styles? Is it like Patricia's?
Yeah, I think you summed it up nicely there, Ruth. It's what the candidate, the resident needs, both that's the individual resident and where they are in the whole process. So it's very much you have to be responsive to and thinking about what's needed right now. Sometimes space is needed and leave it up to the individual to bring themselves along. And other times, particularly in the early days of it, you need to give a lot of support and encouragement and much more coaching rather than mentoring. The other way around.
Thanks.
I think also that, I mean, the down to earth question is that there must be a sincere will to succeed from both parts. And if you become a supervisor, you must be dedicated, and so has the residents. And it is a lot of work to go through the training and to do the exam, and they have to understand that. You have to respect that things happen, both in our personal lives or private lives, but also at work or as at the moment that there will be changes, and the time plan might not hold. But to also to be a little flexible.
I fully agree with Christina, and the key point here is what Janet displays in her background. So everybody needs a lot of perseverance to be able to continue, both the supervisors and the residents. And I must be honest, when I was looking to have residents, I was really interested to have that. But I talked to many people and I told them the truth. It is difficult, but it is doable. So I think it's important to be honest, not to have false expectations, rather be very straightforward about what it is about. And this makes a natural selection of who wants to be a resident, to put it very bluntly.
Yeah, I think I agree with the perseverance. I think I must have been like the resident who took the longest of all. I think I was a resident for I mean, it feels like I've been a resident for 10 years before I finally got everything together. So yeah, perseverance on both parts, that seems to be key to success.
Can I just ask, Patri, because you've had the longest experience of all of us, do you see a difference in your standard program residents and your alternate residents in terms of what kind of help they need during their residency?
Well, I think it's very different because usually the alternate resident has already the will to do it, and at the same time has to be more autonomous, no? Mm-hmm. While the formal resident has a job somehow, and then you have to keep them reminding that this is not a job. You are here because you are a resident and you need to fulfill all the requirements to go to the exam. And that's really difficult because they have to understand that on top of doing their job and getting the training by doing the job, they need to find time to fulfill the publications and all that. And we also have, sometimes we have residents that they are at the same time PhD students, and then for the initial, let's say, to publish, but at the same time, well, we always tell them this requires like thinking you have a double day, no? I don't know how to say, so that you need to work. It's not only the hours you are here, it's also that you have to get time for, your preparation, but also to write down the papers and so on. And for me, that's the biggest difficulty. Because also very often the resident candidate doesn't have the same will, let's say, to be also a scientist and try to publish papers and so on. They are more in the clinician mentality. It's different than the PhD student in that sense.
Mhm. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the situation in Uppsala too. It's we don't get any money to have a resident, but if you are a PhD student, you can then add on your residency program, and I think that's the problem, that we don't have the finances to have pure residencies.
I think that's been a problem. I know in ECLAM years ago when I practiced in the States, that was a huge problem, in that you could get money from the major granting agencies to train PhDs, but you could not get money to train residents. All that training program money dried up years ago. And I think that's a problem ECLAM's well aware of, that a lot of our potential diplomates are also involved in getting a PhD. And I know that we struggle with how to make sure that you can try to help people figure out a way to do both, finish the PhD and get ready for your ECLAM exams. And I think that's more true in Europe than it is in the US. It's my impression.
And for me, it's interesting to hear that there's challenging aspects for both routes. And I myself was an alternate resident, and I sometimes almost envied the standard residents, because I thought, well, they've got it there 3 years, it's all done. But hearing what Patricia and Patri were saying, actually, it's interesting to see that there's also challenging aspects of that path. So Janet, you're obviously extremely active in the college.
Talk about perseverance.
Yeah, and to me, if ECLAM had a face, I think it would be yours for me. So my question for you is, what is your personal motivation to give so much time and energy to ECLAM?
Ooh. I think it's because I really, really firmly believe that if you're going to be a lab animal vet, you need to be the best you could be. And being the best you could be means, for many people, it means getting those letters after your name. I think in a way, it's maybe I'm just feeding my own sense that I've never been qualified to do anything. But having all those letters after my name at least makes me feel a little bit better when I give advice or say something. So I took on the post of the Secretariat because I saw it as a way to really contribute to ECLAM, and it has more than fulfilled my expectations. I really, really love what I do. I really do. Because I just feel like I know so many people in so many different situations, and I still believe that becoming an ECLAM diplomate's the only way to go if you really want to see lab animal medicine continue to do well and serve animals and serve research and serve the public. I'm the world's biggest proponent, I guess, of ECLAM. So I'm in a perfect position to do that. Brilliant.
That's great. And I would like to open this question again to the other panelists, because I think it's every one of you is I don't want to say sacrifice, but you're giving your time. It's all voluntarily. So I'd like to hear what motivates you to keep giving to the college.
All the deadlines. No, I mean, I think the fun part is that we are from so many different countries. That's what I enjoy. I mean, you can get experience from people that you cannot get if you just concentrate on your country or your university or workplace. So I would say that's what motivates me, that we are a truly European group.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe even better to say global group, because I noticed Julia Herbert is online. She's actually training in the US. She's German by nationality, but doing a residency in the US. And we've had queries, although no residents yet, officially from Australia. And obviously we've got Israel. I think Devere Mintz is on. So it's global. It's more than just Europe for us. I think we're scooping up every place that ECLAM doesn't. And that's a good thing for us.
I also think I'm quite selfish because I love to learn. So I do it for myself as well, because you have to, it keeps me updated, because you have to know more than you teach, than you learn. So learning something new every day keeps me going. And also, as Janet said, it hopefully will benefit animals and research, and also try to give lab animals medicine a good face, or update the picture of lab animal medicine and research, lab animal research.
Right.
Yeah, same goes for me. Please go ahead, Greg.
No, Karina, go on.
I like to help people, and I like to help people that also want to be helped. Some people do not need the other people help or don't ask for it. So I always told my residents, and also other residents are not mine, if you ever need support, if you want, you can contact me anytime, and if I'm available, I'm happy to have a chat and really try to help moving forward. But of course, the international aspects, we learn from each other. I think all these are invaluable. Sorry, Greg, please go ahead.
I was just going to agree with everyone, really. Animal welfare, this is a great way to improve standards across the piece, and that will only have an impact on the animals. The social aspect, is fantastic. There's one other thing which hasn't been mentioned. It's probably not the biggest, but I think it's probably there as well, that it does open doors. It might not necessarily be the contacts you make directly, but it's maybe opening your own mind in terms of your career. That you suddenly see there's lots of other jobs you can do, and that may be attractive to do. So I think, again, it's one of the more slightly selfish things, but it's the networking and what that opens up for you for your career.
Yeah. Patri, do you want to add anything else?
Well, I agree with what has been said already, no? When I started, for me was somehow clear, no, that since we had ECLAM and I was in a veterinary school, I had to establish the residence program in that sense, no, and well, it's very rewarding anyway, no.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think there's a lot, like a lot of what you said really resonates with me. The European, even the global aspects, and then actually being selfish because you learn a lot. So there's some great motivation, and I think this is what keeps everybody going. So I'd like to move over to Corinna. So Corinna, you and I we set the exam in 2019. You're based in Switzerland, and you currently have one alternate resident, and also co-supervise another resident. So can you tell us, how do you find your new role as a supervisor? And is there anything that you want to maybe ask the more experienced supervisors in this forum to share sort of like your new experience?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ruth, also for considering me for this panel as a +1. Yeah, I think I really enjoy my experience as a supervisor, being very new, as I mentioned, and I really enjoy the talks with my residents. So of course we are learning from each other, and we have to decide on a dynamic. We have already scheduled our next meetings, etc. For me, what would be important to know, also interesting to know, also in terms of the credentials of the residents, how you document their progress. And I think Patricia mentioned this diary. I think this idea is brilliant because it has to be, as Jen also mentioned, this catalog of practical competencies. And I think it would be very good to have something standardized in ECLAM, but maybe you have your own experiences on this, on how to have this presented in a homogeneous way that it's easily available also for other residents.
Yeah, I'm thinking other colleges, they have like lists of tasks that you have to perform, and even the number of times you have to perform them. I don't know if that's the route ECLAM wants to go, but I mean, at least it's important to keep the diary for your own sake, so that you remember. You know, it's very difficult to remember everything you did, and when you look at everything you did, you can get quite impressed sometimes. But I don't know. I mean, it depends on whether we want to be more detailed in what should a lab animal medicine specialist, what should they all be able to do when it comes to practical skills. And that's something we are discussing now that we are leaving the practical exam behind. We are discussing how we can make sure that the residents actually get enough practical experience.
Thank you, Patricia. Yeah, also so that, for instance, for the College of Veterinary Surgery, they have to perform a certain number of procedures on certain species. I was more thinking about something like a template, how to document this, because obviously if you're doing something repetitive, it would be, okay, every week I perform this procedure, and then I only have to write it once and not every day, or things like this.
Yeah, I guess the application package is the template that my residents used, and they made their own Excel sheets or Word documents from that application package.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some really great ideas, coming out, and maybe I'd like to get Greg to join this particular question. So, Greg, you've been my supervisor. Obviously, you've done an amazing job, and you also lead the new project on making it easier to be a supervisor for ECLAM. So can you tell us, is there any sort of plans for having a standardized training for supervisors, or is there a forum where supervisors, the more experienced, can sort of like share their ideas with the more junior supervisors? Is there any plans for that?
It would be wrong of me to say no, but technically the answer should be no. We're starting the process, getting people together to talk about it. I can definitely see those as outcomes. I think having gone in and found my way through supervision, some aspects well, some aspects not. I think it would have been really helpful to have had more materials, more training. I think it's down to the college and the other supervisors, I think, for us to work together and define what that actually looks like. So, yeah, a bit of a political answer there. So definitely, yes, there will be something. It's just not at a point yet where you can say exactly what it would be. I love these e-coffees. These would be a fantastic way of doing some focused work for supervisors, particularly new ones, or if we needed to updates from the various committees to the supervisors for information that they want the residents to be addressing. So yeah, there's lots and lots of possibilities. It's working out with the supervisors what will actually work, and also involving the residents as well as to what they need.
Yep. Okay. Okay, thanks for that. I've just been notified that we're out of time for the formal interview questions, and now we can move over to any questions that come out of the audience. So if anybody would like to ask their own questions, please go ahead and come off mute or send a message through the chat. And there's a poll coming as well. Like, I'm not multitasking.